Okay, feeding going wrong. Purchasing feed versus feed as dry matter. Purchasing by the bale. I hate buying feed by the bale. My clients do not do this, all right? Because they lose money if all you're doing is buying a bale. What does a bale weigh? 200 kilos, 800 kilos, 700 kilos, right? It's tantamount to madness buying stuff like this. You wouldn't go into Woolworths and just buy a bag of oranges, you know, without a weight on it. Okay, so why are we going out and buying 1,000 tonne of stuff based on what a bale is? It's not really, really good. We also need to know the dry matter percentage of the feed, okay? Because again, if we're just buying by the tonne, even that can get us caught out. And again, if we're talking about silages, for example, 40% dry matter compared to 50% dry matter doesn't sound like much, okay, but it's 25% more that you'd be paying, okay, if you weren't aware of those differences in dry matter. Cost per tonne, okay, and we'll look at this as an example. Here's just an example of a wheat silage, and this sounds pretty good. It's $150 a bale. That's great. Okay, it's a 500 kilogram bale. It's 50% dry matter, all right? $300 a tonne wet is effectively what you're paying at 50% dry matter, all right? So just going quickly through it, what you're paying is $600 a tonne dry matter for that feed, all right? Now you could go out and buy top quality lucerne hay, all right, a lot of the time for less than that. Maybe not in the last few months, but if you're not on top of these sort of conversions, all right, and understanding that that's what you're actually paying per tonne of dry matter, it can very quickly lead you down the wrong pathway. If you're just buying silage by the bale without knowing what a bale weighs and without knowing what the dry matter percentage of your feed is. Okay, wheat hay might have cost us $400 a tonne wet, 85% dry matter. That came in at $470 a tonne dry matter. All right, and this catches people left, right, and centre all over the place. This is my favourite that we saw in the drought. Okay, corn silage. Come pick it up down at the pit. It's cheap, $355 a tonne. It's corn silage. It's great feed. What's the dry matter of corn silage? About 35%, thereabouts. Okay, so it's effectively 3 wet tonnes to the dry matter tonne. So what's this corn silage costing? It's about $1,000 a tonne dry matter, okay? You know, but they could have gone and bought all this great feed for $335 a tonne. But by the time you suck the water out of it, people were going and buying feed for $1,000 a tonne dry matter, okay? This is real, this is happening, this is a genuine advertisement. A week later it had sold on it, okay? So just be super careful. Okay, feeding gone wrong. Okay, just quickly work through a few of these. This is our 450 kilogram Hereford heifer, no calves afoot, 9 months in calf, no weight change. These guys had ad-lib access to fresh, clean wheat straw or standing dry pasture. Both of them are very similar. About 5 megajoules of energy per kilogram dry matter. So, you know, farmer thinks they're doing the right thing, plenty of feed in front of them, much straw as they can eat. All right? The energetic requirement, though, of these animals, when we go back to our calculations, because it's one of the ones we've already worked through, is about 87.5 megajoules. Okay? How much straw would they need? They'd need to eat 17.5 kilograms of it just to maintain their body weight. They physically can't do it. They can eat about 8 or 9. All right? So they will lose weight despite the fact that there's abundant feed sitting in front of them. Now, we can do stuff with that straw. It doesn't mean it's not a useless commodity. We can do stuff with dry standing pasture. It doesn't mean it's not a useless commodity. It's an extremely useful commodity. And it may mean that we only need to supplement this with 2 or 3 kilograms of a good quality concentrate. Okay? Now, that does 2 things. Firstly, it provides the energy directly from the concentrate itself. But secondly, it can help fuel the bugs that then do a better job of actually breaking down that fibre as well. All right, so standing feed can be an incredibly valuable resource if we have something to feed with it. And we also know that, you know, cows are pretty good at browsing and selecting the good stuff first. All right, so at the front end of dry standing feed, things seem pretty good because they've gone through and they're picking out the little green shoots and they're taking the leaf fraction off first, okay? But it's the second half of the dry standing feed phase where things can fall apart very quickly, okay, when the ability to select the good feed has disappeared. All right. Intake and digestibility are adversely impacted by the constraints. Firstly, the body weight of the animal, they just physically can't eat enough, okay, to take in what they need. The fibre levels in the pasture is just too much for them to be able to eat and to digest and to get it through the system to eat enough of it. Cattle can eat between 2 to 3% of body weight, all right, in dry matter, if unrestricted by fibre, but once fibre kicks in, that comes right back, and it come back to nearly 1% in some of these very high roughage diets. All right, once the NDF, we can also look at that amount of NDF, and I won't take you through that now because we don't have a lot of time, but there's a certain percentage of body weight of fibre that they can actually eat. And again, there's a slide that shows that later. So dry matter intake potential, you know, lactating cows, 2.5 to 3% of body weight, dry cows about 2%, calves 2%, feedlot steers, they can actually get up over 3. And the little lammies, they can really fly. They can eat lots, and that's why these guys are incredibly efficient. We don't always need to feed to potential intake, but we do need to feed to our target for energy intake. All right. Fibre can be a problem. We've already talked through that, okay? And we won't go too much into that because I know we are short of time out of it, and we've got a lot more to get through. But again, as things get incredibly fibrous or very high fibre, we just can't get enough of this into the cows to actually maintain weight. Okay, we'll flick through that one. All right, here's another one that we saw. Okay, feeding gone wrong, 500 kilogram Angus cows, no calves at foot, about 6 months in calves, no weight loss. These guys were buying cereal silage, okay, $150 a bale, they were doing what they thought was right. These guys have got an energetic requirement of about 72 megajoules. So this is just how we problem solve stuff when we go on to farm and we see things are going wrong. We work out this energetic requirement first. We work backwards from that. The feed tests look pretty good on feed tests. It's 9.5 megajoules of ME and about 14% protein. So they're going to do pretty nicely on that if they can get enough of it. The owner had been allocating around 8 kilos a head. This guy didn't understand dry matter. He knew they needed 8 kilograms of feed, okay, of dry matter, but he hadn't matched that up with the fact that they needed it to be dry matter, not feed. So these cattle were losing weight, losing significant weight. He also didn't factor in the fact that they were putting it on the ground, and we had about 10% wastage, and wastage can be profound in some of our feeding systems. So the reality is they were only consuming about 7.2 kilograms as fed. Now when you convert that to 50% dry matter, they were only getting about 3.5 kilograms of actual feed. Okay, at 9.5 megs, that only gives us about 34.2 megajoules a day. Their maintenance requirement is about 72. So these guys are going to be losing around a kilo a day, which is exactly what was happening. All right, and again, it's because they didn't understand the difference between feed and dry matter. Right. The other thing that tends to happen when feed is genuinely short is we start seeing competition impacts occur. All right. If you are short of feed and you limit feeding, having cattle in big mobs that have got differences in body size and dominance can be really problematic because we might allocate every animal 8 kilos of feed. The problem is cows can't read. Okay, they don't read the ration sheet. And they say, well, I'm a bigger cow than you, I'm going to eat 12 kilos, okay? And well, I'm not, I'm going to get 2 kilos of all the scraps off the ground. So one of the important things in drought feeding, particularly if you are limit feeding based on energy, is that you need to draft into different size groups. Really, really important. And we've actually graphed this. We had this with some Holstein heifers, it was about 10 years ago. We actually looked at daily gain based on entry into a feed group. And our bigger animals were doing about 1.6 kilos a day. They genuinely were. And the little ones were doing about 0.2, all right? And, you know, on paper, everything was perfect, but that's not how it works in reality. Purchase feed, how can you do better? Understand forage and typical analysis. So educating yourself on what stuff should look like. What does good hay look like? What does bad hay look like? Because hay isn't hay. Target the NDF for the fodder type. So you need to understand, okay, within whatever fodder you're buying, what a good NDF looks like, all right? Because it's different in a lucerne hay. If I had lucerne hay that was 50% NDF, I wouldn't buy it because it's really indigestible. But if I had wheat hay that was 50% NDF, I'd love it. Fantastic. All right. Higher NDF, if you're stuck with it, you've got a greater role for concentrates to sort that out. Understand your dry matter percent for calculating the amount of feed and your ration costs. Understand your losses to wastage, okay, and the impact of competition if feed is limited. All right, competition becomes really, really important if you're feeding accurately to energy. When buying feed, determine what you want from the forage. Do you need protein, energy, fibre? Match the processing with the type of feeding system. So this is a real important issue of wastage. Okay, and people that were buying bales from wherever they could get them, which was absolutely normal and rational, and that's just how it got towards the end. You'll find that there's a whole heap of different processing within hays when you buy them. So some stuff will be really fine chopped, okay, and some stuff will be really, really long, okay, and you can get different forms of wastage from different ways. If you feed really fine chopped stuff out in the ground and you trail feed, you're going to get very, very large amounts of wastage. What we find with really long hays, if they're fed in hay racks, is what tends to happen is that the cows will pull them out, take this great big mouthful of feed, step away, eat the first 4 or 5 mouthfuls of it, and then they drop the rest on the ground. All right. So you actually need to be able to match your forage, if you can, okay, the forage processing in the hay that you're buying with your feeding type system when you actually go to feed it out. Consider testing feeds prior to purchase. And again, if you're buying any more than a load a year, and it's an important part of your business, if buying feed is embedded as an important part of your business, getting on top of and understanding feed tests is really important.
Yeah, just on that too, most people selling good quality feed will offer usually feed tests.
Absolutely, Josh, and I think this is one of it's probably been driven by the dairy industry over the last 10 years, but there's been a lot more pressure on the hay industry to come up with more feed testing. So increasingly, hay is more likely to be available with a feed test, okay, of some sort. And again, it's only as good as the sample that was taken, all right? We can't guarantee that every bale in the line is going to be like it, but at least it's indicative. It's a bit like a budget, Budget's a budget, you can't farm with a budget, but it gives you a vague idea whether what you're proposing has got some vague chance of succeeding, okay? They're important, I won't step away from that, but, it says, how crazy is the proposition I'm coming up with, and that's what a budget does, and a feed test is similar. Biosecurity is important, okay? And again, we've seen some wonderful weeds introduced with hay from people that aren't used to buying it. I had one client ring me up, and this is about 10 years ago, or 15 years ago in our last drought, okay, in 03 through to 06. He said, "Oh, mate, I've got this wonderful hay. It's got all these purple flowers through it. I've got all this fantastic lucerne." And it was the best crop of Patterson's curse screw there the next year. Okay, so just be aware that some dirty stuff comes in as well. Don't cut water, it's got no feed value. And again, there's the toxicity issues, all right? And again, if you're feeding lots of silages and lots of brassicas and silage as a part of your system, don't forget about this bad boy, all right? And I know it's an issue up in this region, okay? But we see, lots of turtles and round bales, okay? Particularly in conditions like this. Botulism's no fun if you've ever had to deal with it. And I've dealt with about 15 outbreaks and I haven't had a good day ever when we're doing that. Look, there's lots of this stuff is published and readily available, okay? If you're looking for information sources, you can Google quite happily energetic requirements of cattle, guidelines for beef. So there's plenty of good references. This is just a table that outlines the dry matter intake, the amount of energy, the protein requirements, the ideal fibre ranges. And again, there's going to be argument, there's going to be differences. A megajoule here, a megajoule there doesn't matter. All right, if you're vaguely around the ballpark, you're going to be close. And again, this is just one off one of the DPI sites. This is AgVic, and again, gives some really nice guidelines on energetic requirements. So it's not just me making it up. There's other people making this up as well.